And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, Talking Business, our interview series talking with leaders in the field of digital marketing, insurance, banking, customer service, all to highlight great work done by our team at CBSI in Harrison, New York, taking care of our customers. We provide benefits, often insurance back to the credit card and payments industry and customer service management. And we're very pleased to talk with Erwin Grossman, who is the CEO and founder of Delta Payments Solutions, a leader in the field of merchant processing, transactions through bank cards. Erwin, good to talk with you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Ken. Great to speak with you as well.
Our pleasure. Now, this is an area we don't always talk about as much at CBSI. We tend to be more on the marketing side, upfront generating transactions. But your business is what's absolutely necessary in order to process a transaction. And maybe if you would explain a little bit about your history of the company and how the merchant processing services that you provide have evolved over the years.
Sure, that'd be great. I think we're a little bit different than a lot of other companies that are in our space. Myself and my two other founding partners do not come from the merchant processing industry. Actually, I'm a mechanical engineer. I spent years in the management consulting world and sales and marketing in industrial products. And my other two founding partners didn't come from merchant processing either. But we've all used merchant processing, credit card processing in our businesses. And the common theme, the common thread was we've all been both the beneficiaries and the victims of credit card processing. And about 4 years ago, we got together and realized that, especially for small and mid-sized companies, this industry had become more complex, much less transparent, and very expensive. And if a merchant was dealing more in card not present transactions, either e-commerce or mail order or telephone order, that was even doubly so. Much less transparent, much more expensive. So we were trying to figure out how we could develop a company with some sustainable competitive advantage that could really benefit small and mid-sized companies in an industry where there are hundreds, if not thousands, of agents and brokers and resellers. And what we did, we started a co-op, Delta Payment Cooperative. So Delta Payment Solutions manages the co-op, and we feel there are a number of advantages we have. We've been able to take the group buying power that our co-op already has and the larger group buying power that we're going to be able to develop. And we've been able to work with back-end processors and large ISOs to develop strong relationships where we've had great access to products and services and very low rate structures that they've been able to give us. And we've been able to pass those along to the merchants we work with, who become members of the co-op, without adding an obscene amount of margin onto those costs, which unfortunately this industry has become known for. And then in addition to that, and in the true business model of a co-op, we're taking 50% of the revenue we earn from doing business with a particular a merchant, and we're returning it to that merchant as a rebate. So when you combine the low rate structures with those rebates, it creates a value proposition that's pretty incredible. And as we grow, in terms of total transaction volume, our incremental rebate grows in 5% increments until our rebates equal 75% of the revenue we earn from doing business with a merchant. So that even turns merchants into referral partners for us, because they want all their friends and neighbors and business colleagues to work with us, because even though they're not going to grow, they can get more rebate if the co-op gets larger in total.
Now, Erwin, maybe you'd want to describe for our audience a little bit about what are the services that you provide. The merchant category is a broad one. There's a lot of different players involved with making that transaction. I once diagrammed for a class what it takes to process a dinner transaction being made in Rome, getting through the Visa and MasterCard system, getting back to the authorizing issuing bank of that credit card to get an approval, and then sending it back to through the system back to that restaurant in Rome, and doing that in a matter of about a second. Maybe you could explain a little bit some of the processes that you're involved with that make that happen.
Sure, would love to. We actually are not involved in the actual back end processing of cards. There are, 13 or 14 true back end processors here in the States, and those are the people we have relationships with. What our major goal is to work with merchants who use credit card processing for their business, and help them, or really to try to understand what keeps them up at night, what worries them, and how do payments fit into those issues and problems that they have. And then how can we package some of the products and services that we offer to not only reduce their costs, but to ease their concerns and have their businesses run more smoothly. So in terms of the services we offer, it's the traditional credit card and debit card processing, ACH and e-check services. A very fast growing part of our business are the discount for cash and credit surcharging programs that the Durbin Amendment to the Dodd-Frank Act allowed several years ago, which really allow a merchant to push those credit card fees back onto the cardholder if they're going to use a credit card as opposed to paying in cash. We work with both card present and card not present merchants, so we offer all the hardware solutions that a brick and mortar company might need, as well as all the virtual terminal and software integration capabilities that an online merchant might need. But in addition to credit card processing, we offer a family of installment payment plans and financing options. We have a very interesting accounts payable management program that allows a merchant to pay their vendors with single-use virtual credit cards and automate the whole accounts payable process. And we've just started working with a company that offers private label credit cards with full loyalty programs. So larger organizations like buying groups and associations can make use of the advantages of having their own credit card. And we're just beginning to get into more of the virtual wallets and smartphone and tablet-based systems that really will be taking a huge piece of the market going forward.
Well, we certainly see that, and that's one of the answers to the COVID epidemic, is trying to go to touchless payments wherever possible. What has been some of the impact of the COVID-19 that you've seen on your customers? Obviously, a lot of businesses moved online to companies operating virtually, and restaurants struggling to reopen, and retailers struggling at some point to a large degree. What have been some of the impacts that you've seen on your business from the COVID epidemic?
Yeah, well, certainly at the beginning of March, we saw some significant impacts. Many of the brick and mortar businesses we worked with, their businesses went to zero in terms of transactions.
Wow.
We don't work with restaurants. We're very selective about the brick and mortar merchants we work with. A high degree of healthcare professionals, of veterinarians, and businesses like that. But they all went to zero when they had to close. On the other hand, we have I'd say probably 80% of our business are merchants that are e-commerce or mail order or telephone order, card not present merchants. And while many of those experienced a very short dip, they've all come back, and some of them are growing at rates that are double or triple what their forecasts were for 2020.
Well, that's quite a secret. Now, what kind of businesses have you found are doing well? Obviously, certain key retailers are. We're seeing groceries and pharmaceuticals doing well, and others. What types of businesses do you see doing well, and what's been a key for their growth?
From a card present, from a brick and mortar standpoint, all the healthcare related businesses we work with have bounced back extremely strongly. We do a lot of work in the cosmetic surgery, Botox clinics, other types of healthcare providers, veterinarians, dentists. They've all bounced back extremely strongly. Many reasons, because there's been a lot of pent-up demand. But they've had to change the way they're doing their processing, going to more online transaction processing, or new hardware for touchless transactions when someone walks into their facility. From an online standpoint, we do a lot of work in online education and training, online legal services, online documentation, and interestingly, online auctions.
Yeah.
You can imagine people who have sold their houses or want to downsize, or may have had a death in the family and have a merchandise they're looking to sell. What was very popular was to put out an estate sale sign and have someone walk through your home on a Saturday and Sunday and make you offers for what you had. And as you can imagine, that really isn't flying in the COVID environment. So the online auction industry is rocketing. We have, for example, one of our merchants in that industry has doubled their business every month from April through August. And what's been interesting about that, what they see is, very, very good, could have been a huge problem in the credit card processing nature of their business, because they were approved for a certain amount of processing every month at a certain average transaction value and a certain high transaction value. And if we hadn't been monitoring their transactions on a daily or weekly basis, they would have rocketed past their approval level, and the processor may have slapped a reserve on them. And for those who don't know what a reserve is, it's when a processor holds back some of your transaction money for a certain period of time, usually longer than a merchant would like, because they're concerned about refunds and chargebacks and whether the merchant has enough money in their bank account to deal with that. So they could slap a reserve on a merchant. They could conduct a review on a merchant. And unfortunately, several times we've had merchants shut down without notice, not because they've done anything wrong, but just because their business model has changed and they haven't informed the processor of that in advance.
Yes, there's so many challenges in the merchant uh, activity. Tell us a little bit about, if you would, there's so many businesses that are going virtual that may not have a storefront today. There's so much growth in that part of a business. Hey, what are some of the keys in order to obtain a merchant account and to operate it smoothly you're not when you're doing card not present type of transactions?
Yeah, the similarity between card not present and card present is just, to have all your legal documents in order, to have good financial performance of the business and a strong bank account. The difference when you're going online is that Visa, MasterCard have a rather significant amount of rules and regulations for what a website and the transaction processing capability of a website needs to have. Things as simple as having your address and your telephone number on the checkout page, to making sure that your refund policies and your customer service policies and phone numbers are correct. So it's very frequent that we're guiding a merchant that's never done business online through the process of what they need their website to look like, and all the nits and gnats of what they need to have on it. We also help guide them about how they need to integrate with payment processing, with accounting. And although we don't represent any point of sale systems or shopping carts, which is what would be used by a website to do checkout, because we feel it's important to be agnostic. We do give guidance as to, in general, what a merchant needs to think about when they're selecting the right shopping cart or the right point of sale system for them.
Very good. And maybe you want to just take us through an installation. Let's say you are going to provide merchant processing services to your co-op, to an online merchant is operating through a website or through mobile. Take us through what are some of the steps involved in setting up an account for a new online company.
Yeah, and again, here our process is a little different than many others. But the first thing we do is we do a deep dive to understand the merchant's business, not just what they're doing in processing, but everything around how payments and the discussion of payments with their customer takes place. So we can get a sense of whether their current processor is really doing the right job for them in their overall business. We'll also take 2 or 3 months of their existing statements and do an analysis of what they're paying and why they're paying that. Most interestingly, we found that with small and mid-sized companies, many of them signed their current processing application, but never read it, and they don't really understand why they're being charged the way they're being charged. So unfortunately, a lot of times what we're telling them about what they're paying is new news to them, and oftentimes very upsetting. Part of the issue I raised before, that this industry's become a lot less transparent. And I think in many ways, a lot of agents and resellers are trying to make it less transparent. Our goal is to make it very transparent. So we'll go through, we'll tell them what they're paying, how we can help them, how much we can save them, and then we look for their commitment. As they understand, we're not in the business to give them new guidance that they can then take back to their existing processor and get their existing processor to lower their rates. So once we get their commitment, we fill out the application for them. We're looking to make it as painless and take up as little time of theirs as we can. So we'll fill out their application, we'll work with them to collect all the other data we need, and then we'll send the application back to them, go over it with them, so it's completely transparent before we get their signature. We'll then submit it to the ultimate processor, and we'll act to marshal that through the process. And why that's important is that many times the underwriters will go back to the merchant and ask questions, sometimes in a language that merchants might not understand. And we're there sort of as the translator to help a merchant understand what the underwriter's really looking for and make it really easy for them to provide that information. Once they're approved, we'll help guide them. If they need it, we'll help guide them through the process of getting them set up and running and making sure that they sign up for all the merchant portals and chargeback notifications or dispute notification portals they have access to. And then we'll just stay in touch with them constantly to make sure that they're operating smoothly, not running into any problems, and we'll very proactively be looking at their accounts all the time to make sure that they're not violating any of the approvals that they were granted by the processor.
And we're talking with Erwin Grossman, who's the CEO and co-founder of Delta Payment Solutions based in the Boston area. Erwin, maybe you could talk to some of the technology innovation in the field. I mean, credit cards go back to the 1960s, and we at CBSI were involved with the formation of many of the Visa products over the years, to go back to the 1980s and 90s. But now we have mobile phones, we've got touchless payments and other technology coming into the field of payments. Some of it's been accepted quickly, like debit cards, and others has been slow. Mobile wallets hasn't taken off the way some would have thought, but the COVID epidemic certainly is increasing the interest in touchless payment techniques. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the innovation that you've seen that's really worked and some that is about to benefit customers and merchants.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just talking about where I go back in my use of credit cards. I remember when I was a younger kid back in the 1960s, going with my mother to the grocery store. And if you were using a credit card, they looked up in a book to see the fraudulent cards.
I actually remember that. I remember that.
So how big would that book have to be today? But in terms of technology, we're doing a lot with a touchless, especially in the healthcare provider area. When you're going into a dentist office, when you're going into a medical office, or even veterinarian, nobody wants to be touching screens, whether it's the
So I'll just take a break for a second.
Sorry, I needed to unplug that beeping. I'm sure you could hear it.
That's okay. That's okay. So you were talking about innovations on touchless, not people not wanting to touch screens.
Right, and it's not only touchless for the customer; it's touchless for the administrative staff as well, as much as possible. So we're implementing that to a large degree. And also from a mobile standpoint, in doctors' offices, we've got that touchless technology at the front desk, but then there are mobile operations in each of either the operating rooms or the dental rooms, wherever we're going, and that's growing at at a very, very significant rate. We're seeing Apple Pay and Google Pay being used to a much higher degree, and that's being included in almost every one of our, with every one of the merchants that we're doing e-commerce with. And then also things like Venmo and Zelle. And we're finding that that's not just relegated to the millennials. We're seeing that a very, very high, now, especially with COVID, that's really gaining traction in all age groups of the population.
Well, it's exciting to be able to talk with you about the innovations there. One of the things I've been doing some work on is STEM education, and you have a background in mechanical engineering. And I'd just like to ask you, while we have you, the importance of STEM education and something like mechanical engineering. I actually do work with the cadets at West Point, many of whom are in engineering, some in mechanical engineering. How does that background help someone in business today?
I think it's a thought process. During my mechanical engineering schooling, I actually developed a toolbox of solutions or partial solutions, and was taught how to analyze a problem and look in my toolbox and see what could get put together to solve a problem. And I wound up, after I spent 5 years working for Eastman Kodak Company, back in the day when it was a very, very big company. And then I went to graduate school at Carnegie Mellon University, because it had the same type of educational philosophy in business. You know, how could you learn specific aspects and specific tools? How could you help analyze a business and then put those tools together in the right way to solve problems? And you know, one of the most important things you were taught was how to listen, because in problem solving, listening is one of the most important things. And that holds true, you know, for the business that I'm in now, 40 years after being out of school. Those techniques and those things I learned as an engineer still ring true.
Well, that's exactly what our CEO founder Bob Conti says, that to help a client, you got to listen with 2 ears and take down what it is that someone needs assistance with. We're so glad to talk with you, Erwin Grossman, CEO, co-founder of Delta Payment Solutions. Erwin, maybe a final thought for us today about the type of clients that you're best equipped to help, and the key services that you have for them.
Yeah, we found, even though we can help a wide range of clients, we found we've got the most impact on small and mid-sized companies. Let's say one's doing between $1 million and $100 million a year in transaction processing, that are more card not present related. So e-commerce, mail order, telephone order. We find that those companies are being taken advantage of by the merchant processing industry more than others. And with our suite of products and what we offer with our co-op, we're really resonating with that segment of the marketplace.
Very good. And you've got a terrific website. You've got some offers and publications, and you offer to do a custom assessment of a unique situation of a customer. Just also briefly, what does that involve, and what does that offer a prospective customer?
You know, as I think I had mentioned before, it involves taking 2 or 3 months worth of their statements. We need to understand what their point of sale system and their shopping cart is, what other integrations they might need if it's to an accounting system. And then we really try to understand how payments fit into their business model, because it's not just about getting them another account that might be lower in price. It's how do we help them with their company and help them reach their goals much better and much faster. So very often we come back to them with not only what we can save them, but how we think they can reorganize or restructure the payments part of the business to do a better job for themselves and their customers.
Very good. Well, it's great to talk with you and learn about your business, learn about your experience in the payments field and in the merchant processing field and the co-op that your company offers. And so look forward to staying in touch. And Erwin Grossman, again, CEO, co-founder of Delta Payment Solutions, and much more about the company online. Good to talk with you today. Erwin, it's been a pleasure.
Great to speak with you. Thanks for the time.
Our pleasure. And again, this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services and our team back in Harrison, New York. Our team works on providing benefits and customer service to the credit card industry. So again, this is Ken Kraetzer from my home office in White Plains, New York. Have a great day, everybody.